Welcome back to the Draft Nut Podcast, live on Blue Chip Scouting's YouTube and Twitter accounts. It's Jared Feinberg and Devin Jackson, and we are your hosts for today's live stream of the Draft Nut Podcast. Devin, good evening. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. How you doing today, man?
I've been good. Had classes today. Was able to get some homework done earlier. Been watching a little bit of the Panthers-Jets game from Sunday, just trying to catch up, see what I missed, see what really like a really good picture of what happened during that game, and we'll talk about that here later. I want to go ahead and get started with some week one's action. It was a crazy week. Some great games. Dallas, Tampa Bay was awesome. Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, an incredible game to kick off the year. And then it ended with an even better game. Baltimore, Las Vegas, in an overtime thriller, and probably one of the better games we've seen in the last couple of years. In my opinion, like that was insane. Since it's fresh on our minds, let's talk about that game. I came into this game thinking the Ravens had this thing in the bag. I was like, the Ravens are a much better team, even though they were suffering it. They were dealing with an injury bug, guys out for the year with significant injuries. The Raiders, I wasn't really high on. And then the Raiders didn't start out too hot, and then they kept on fighting, and the Ravens looked good as well. And second half, Derek Carr just flipped a switch. Like, he wasn't scared anymore. He was fearless and was just throwing the rock like crazy. I mean, he was making some really good throws. And everyone was like, this is exactly what Derek Carr can be if he didn't play scared all the time, if he didn't struggle up here. Watching that game and just how everything transpired in the fourth quarter and overtime, and I was watching it from the Peyton Manning, Eli Manning telecast on ESPN2, which was phenomenal. If you guys watched that, I hope you guys enjoyed. They'll be back next week for Monday Night Football, so look forward to that. But man, I'll tell you what, Bryan Edwards, still a baller. If they can get the ball to Henry Ruggs more, if they can throw to their receivers more, holy crap, dude. Raiders it could be something now. Look, probably overreacting, but there's something there. I was vastly underrating the Raiders. I didn't think they looked like a good football team. I had a lot of question marks, and plenty of those were sort of answered last night, but I want to see how they do the rest of the season moving forward. But man, last night, man, insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was an entertaining game. And I said last week on the stream, I wouldn't be surprised if the game went either way. I thought the Raiders improved their roster. I think they still maybe have some deficiencies on the offensive line. I don't think it got exposed as much because the Ravens' pass rush is not there yet in terms of how they manufacture pressure, which is why they sent so many blitzes last night. But it was impressive to watch Derek Carr kind of grow over the game. He I believe I heard a stat that he started 0 for 6 against the blitz in the first couple of quarters, and then he finished like 9 of 13, and obviously that walk-off touchdown. So he was able to start diagnosing pre- and post-snap changes. The Ravens were kind of giving away their zero pressure. They showed it in blitz more times than not, and he was able to get the ball out when he needed to. He made some impressive throws, especially in that fourth quarter and overtime. That throw to Bryan Edwards in overtime that we thought, the game was over initially, was a fantastic play, creating outside of structure, throwing it on the back shoulder and giving his guy a chance to catch the ball. And he did that several times. You know, he did that a lot with Darren Waller as well, able to get outside the pocket and just lay it up for him. You know, he targeted Waller a lot last night. I think 19 targets, which is a little bit insane with the receiving core. So definitely want to see him spread the wealth a little bit more. I think you can take some of that pressure off Waller, so he's starting to get single coverage because teams are going to bracket him more than likely or send him double teams. So it's going to leave one-on-one opportunities for Ruggs, who, if you're running those deep crosser routes, I mean, there's no one that can stick with him man to man. You know, Brian Edwards, he can catch those 50-50 passes. So I want to see those guys get a little bit more involved. I want to see Josh Jacobs stay a little bit more healthy. He was having some issues with it. I think he had some sort of ankle injury or something that was nagging with them. But their offense looked good. I mean, John Gruden is a really good play caller. You know, he knows what to call, when to call. He gives the keys to Derek Carr in terms of answers and whatnot. So I'm not too surprised about how Derek Carr looks. I just want to see it consistently and be able to do it on a down-and-down basis. I also want to see them against a more premier pass rush, because I think that will tell us a little bit more about how the offensive line can handle things like that. But it's very clear that Carr is finding ways, or can find ways in the course of a game, to defeat blitzes, find his hot reads, and mostly throwing the ball down the field. You know, he started taking chances really in the third and fourth quarter. While I was in the first half, he was checking the ball down a lot, turning down, you know, deeper passes for shorter passes. But, you know, when he's able to push the ball down the field, I mean, he looks good doing it. So you want to see him have that confidence from the start of the game and look good as he did. But yeah, I was very impressed with the Ravens. I mean, not the Ravens, but the Raiders' defensive line. Max Crosby had a monster game. He's taken that next step as a pass rusher, seemingly. Carl Nassib had a big strip sack. You know, no Clean Farrell. He was inactive, which is a little bit surprising. But the defensive line looked really good. I was really impressed. Secondary held up pretty nicely too. I know the Ravens' offensive attack isn't exactly, you know, down the field shot. Well, they do take down the field shots, but not exactly, you know, stretching the whole field, you know, horizontally and vertically all the time. But they did a really good job, especially in that second half, of you know, keeping things pretty much in front of them and containing Lamar Jackson. I mean, you know, he made some big runs, made some plays, but generally speaking, you know, they held a pretty good contain on him most of the game.
Yeah. I was really impressed with the Raiders defense and how they were able to contain Lamar Jackson a little bit. I mean, Jackson really, he's a game changer. I think he's an elite quarterback, just with his overall ability. I think he looked improved as a passer in this game. That fumble at the in the overtime, of course, cost them the game. But that was an incredible pass rush by the Raiders front four. So I'm not really going to harp on that too much. But yeah, that was a very fun game to watch, and like watching that game and then watching Carr throw that interception. Now, I know it wasn't his fault. It went right through Snead's hands, deflected off a Ravens defensive player's helmet, and into the hands of another Ravens player. And it was just like bad luck for the Raiders. And what were they doing at the goal line, doing a hard count, all that? Like, what were you doing there? Like, that's some of the stuff like that makes me, you know, irk a little bit away from the Raiders because of those mistakes and all that, and some of the inexperience. But man, that was a fun game last night. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Raiders do moving forward. And the Ravens got themselves a tough test this season. They are dealing with a lot of injuries, and now they're heading on the road 0-1, and I think they're hosting the Chiefs, or they're on the road against the Chiefs, and that's just. It could be 0-2, and things could start spiraling if that happens. Like, if the Raiders don't figure something out soon and they don't start getting healthy hopefully Bateman's back healthy later down the road and he can help out. But I don't know, man. The Ravens, they could be in trouble. I want to go ahead.
I was going to say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick. The Ravens, they're hosting the Chiefs, but it's a tough 2 game test to start the season. I mean, you got the Raiders who are much improved, and then obviously the Chiefs. And really for them, it's going to be on the shoulders of Lamar Jackson. He's going to have to play his best football almost every game out from here on out to kind of keep them afloat as they get some stability and get some guys back, especially offensively at the receiver position. But it's going to be a tough test. It's going to be a tough test for them this Sunday night, and Lamar's going to have to play out of his mind for them to have a chance to win.
I want to go on to Chiefs Browns. Two things that I took away from that game. One, the Browns are a very good football team. I think they were the better team Sunday against in Arrowhead. Two, the Chiefs are beatable. It's been made clear. Tampa Bay made it clear. Cleveland made it clear. They just couldn't hang on. And, of course, you have that fear and that knowing in your head that Mahomes is just going to somehow, some way just come on back and rally this team and help them win. Mahomes is just different, you know. I mean, he's the best quarterback in the league. Tyreek Hill, best receiver in the league, in my opinion. Travis Kelce, arguably the best tight end in the league. I mean, just throw to those two. If you're in need of a comeback, you're the Chiefs. Just throw it to those two. They'll make it work. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. But I was really impressed with the Browns. They looked much improved defensively. Baker Mayfield was just cooking. He didn't throw any touchdowns. He threw that interception to end the game, which was definitely it was him trying to throw the ball away, and it was wildly short, of course, and it broke my heart to see Mayfield throw a pick in that situation. But man, I was really impressed with the Browns. There's some areas they may need work on. There were plenty of illegal shifts, and I think the Chiefs were kind of hurrying the offense a little bit too fast to the point where players weren't really set when they were either motioning around on the offense, across the formation, whatnot. Njoku got called, I think, a couple times for illegal shift. So that's something that I'll have to keep an eye on moving forward. But the Browns are very good, especially defensively. They look a lot better defensively than they did a year ago, adding on Troy Hill, Juwan Johnson, Greg Newsome. And then, of course, you have Denzel Ward when he's healthy. He's an elite corner. This Browns team is going to be really good this year. And it would not surprise me to see Kansas City and Cleveland meet each other again in the playoffs, either in the divisional round, maybe the wild card round, or in the AFC Championship. You know, it's a complete matchup, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was a really good matchup between two good teams. I knew it was going to be a good game. I mean, just on paper, though, those two teams, they're different in the way they attack offensively, but they both do it effectively. The play calling was phenomenal by Kevin Stefanski and their staff. And then obviously Mahomes is going to do things that not many quarterbacks or if any can do on the football field. I mean, he just makes those splash plays that are very, deflating. I mean, even the long touchdown pass, it was excellent coverage. He just put it in a place where there's no defending that. I mean, you just got to live with those plays if you're going to play the Chiefs. They're going to make big plays eventually. There's no if about it. It's going to happen, but you have to be able to kind of withstand that. And, unfortunately, Browns weren't able to pull it out in the end. I don't think they should be discouraged from the game. I mean, they had them down most of the game and had control. I mean, it really came down to 2 or 3 plays. And that's what happens, it kind of separates, kind of the elite teams from the very good teams. The ones that are elite makes those 2 to 3 plays to win the game. And unfortunately, it was a special teams miscue for the Browns, and then allowing that touchdown and then the interception by Baker Mayfield. I mean, that's 3 plays right there that really kind of changed the momentum of the game. So it's tough. I mean, for the Browns especially to take the loss, but like I said, you have to be encouraged with the way how well they played against them in Week 1. It's a little concerning for the Chiefs, I think, though, even though they found a way to win. Uh, the emergence of a second receiver like McCole Hardman, like who's going to be that second guy? There's Sammy Watkins left. That's still kind of a concern for their offense because teams are obviously going to key in on, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Who's going to be that next person that steps up? So that's a question they're going to have to kind of answer over the course of the season. Because if you take away those top 2 targets, which is very difficult, it's not an easy task by any means, but there are a few teams that can do so. Who's going to be that next person that steps up? And if they can't, the Chiefs may not be making all the way to the Super Bowl. So I think they have some questions they need to answer. Tyrann Mathieu needs to get back healthy and on the field. So they have some questions that need to be answered as well. But it was an excellent game between two great teams.
All right, so I'll briefly mention some of the performances from this past weekend or from Week 1. Trevor Lawrence's debut. I went back and watched his some of his tape a little bit. The 3 interceptions he threw. One was, I think, his third interception was like in the game, like just, what are you doing? All that. There was one interception where he kind of threw it behind, got picked, and I don't remember what happened with the other one. But overall, I was really impressed with Trevor Lawrence's performance. Chandler Jones is an elite pass rusher, and he is a future Hall of Famer. He had 5 sacks against the Tennessee Titans, 3 in the first quarter alone, which is just insane. I think Chandler Jones is already an easy favorite for Defensive Player of the Year after Week 1. But we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes. But if he continues to have performances like this, not like 5-sack performances, but like multi-sack performances week in and week out, he is going to shatter the single-season sack record. And he could not only make a case, he may not only win Defensive Player of the Year, he may get a vote or 2 for league MVP. Like, he may be that good this year. It blows my mind that New England let this man go, and now Chandler Jones is just out here balling out, and New England hasn't had a true legitimate pass rusher since Chandler Jones. So that's kind of one of the mistakes New England has made over the last several years or so, was letting Chandler Jones go or trading him, excuse me. So, yeah, I was really impressed with Chandler Jones. I want to move on to our team's games. Saints, Green Bay, or Saints, Packers, Panthers, Jets. I'll go ahead and start with your Saints against the Packers. Saints, of course, won 38-3. Same score they won, I think, last year against Tampa Bay in the season opener. And, I was really impressed with Jameis Winston. I think you can agree with that as well. 5 touchdown passes. He threw for less than 200 yards. That's pretty damn impressive. Team overall played great. They lost Lattimore for several weeks, but he did get a big contract. And, of course, they also lost Marcus Davenport and Eric McCoy, I think, for the next couple of weeks or maybe the next week or 2. So the Saints kind of lost some good players from that game, but also they showed that, hey, we may have a legitimate quarterback again in Jameis Winston. So I want to know your thoughts from that game. What were you impressed with? What do you think the Saints need to improve on? And what's next for the Packers moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it was a shocker to me. I figured the Saints would play pretty well, just with something to prove, obviously, and so much change on the roster. I didn't expect them to blow out the Packers 38-3 in week one. That's not something that I expected at all. I was impressed with just the tempo the offense played with. They took their time. It was like long, methodical drives. They had like drives of 9, 15, and I think 15 again to start the game. And that kind of set the tone for how the game was going to go. They spent pretty much the first two quarters with the football, and that kind of slowed down what the Packers were doing offensively and kept Aaron Rodgers off the field. So when he came back, he started pressing and whatnot. So they did a good job of sustaining drives and being able to, get first downs. They went for fourth down on a couple times on those drives. Juwan Johnson was a big surprise. The former receiver turned tight end. I had 2 touchdowns in a game and showed his ability to be that kind of contested catch red zone threat for New Orleans because they really didn't have that. With Michael Thomas gone over the last good portion of the year or so. So that was encouraging to see. Marquez Callaway didn't even have a huge day, and they still were able to put up 38 points. And Jameis Winston showed a little bit of everything. He showed his decision making improved in terms of taking what's in front of him. He wasn't forcing things downfield too much unless it was open or he felt like he could make the throw. He was running outside the pocket. That's something you really didn't see him do much in Tampa Bay. So it's kind of his maturation process in terms of being able to process post snap, make good decisions, throw the ball away when he needed to throw the ball away. He was efficient. That's something that hasn't been attached to his name in quite some time. The efficiency, he was able to get the ball out quickly and deliver, good pass. So, all those things, kind of put into a formula of him throwing 5 touchdowns. He was able to show the ability to move in the pocket, step up. He had Chris Hogan in the back of the end zone. Like I said, hit Juwan Johnson for 2 touchdowns. And obviously the long touchdown pass to Deontay Harris as well. So he showed a little bit of everything in his arsenal, and it's very encouraging to see. And being able to have a quarterback that stretches the field like that, it's going to be very valuable for them going forward. Offensive line played well, even with Eric McCoy out because he left in like the first quarter. I think he's going to be out 4 to 5 weeks, which sucks for the Saints, but they kind of just adjust on the fly. Marshall Lattimore, I'm not sure about his status. I know he's had thumb surgery, but there's potential he might just play through and have a cast on his hand. So we'll have to monitor that and see how that happens. The Saints do get Bradley Roby this week as well. Even with Paulson Adebo playing as well as he did, I was very surprised by his performance. But we also get Bradley Roby back because he served his final game in suspension. And I'm sure they're going to work him in at some point or try to get him kind of in the groove. But I was very impressed with the secondary the most. I think, that was one of the biggest question marks with who's going to be CB2, how their secondary is going to hold up against Devontae Adams and the potent passing attack that the Packers bring. They essentially shut that down, had 2 interceptions. So they answer a lot of those offseason questions. Still worried a little bit about the pass rush. I want to see Peyton Turner be active or, be activated for games. He was inactive for the game on Sunday. Marcus Davenport being out will probably make him active. So we'll have to watch and see how he does this season. But the Saints look – yeah. But the Saints look really good. I was impressed with what they brought to the table. Don't really have too much complaints. I think they did as well as you could have in the first game. As for the Packers, it just seemed like, they had no rhythm. They didn't play together in preseason. That showed, especially, for Aaron Rodgers and getting timing down with his receivers and whatnot, getting on the same page. The offense just looked out of whack. They really didn't run the football. I think they were getting like 4 or 5 yards a carry, but they had gotten down so many points that they couldn't really run the ball as effectively anymore. And then didn't really see the play action game that you usually see from them. So I think they'll be okay going forward. I think they'll look a lot better than they did in week one, but it has to be a concern for them. I mean, their secondary was getting shredded, and it was supposed to be an area where they made some improvements, but they still have Kevin King out there, and he's definitely a liability in their secondary. So it'll be interesting to see what they can change, if their pass rush will be a factor. Because if not, I mean, they're going to be looking at the same kind of situation where they have to outscore teams to win, but in the playoffs, it's not going to work when they go up against opponents and a really solid defense. So I feel like the Packers are still kind of in that holding pattern and not necessarily got any much better. Like they still have Aaron Rodgers, still a lot of those same pieces, but I didn't really see much improvement or much change from what we've seen from them over the last few years, except that they just weren't executing.
Yeah, and we have this whole thing about the Packers' last stands potentially with Rodgers and maybe even Devontae Adams moving on after this season. And like you said, Packers really didn't improve much, but I expect them to improve next week and as the season goes along. And I think they'll get hot at some point, and Rodgers will just end up balling out per usual. I don't think this is like a big concern or worry, but it's something to keep an eye on for sure. I want to talk about my team, Carolina Panthers, and the New York Jets. First off, I want to talk about Sam Darnold. So, after watching his game again, I was fairly impressed with what Darnold was doing in terms of his footwork, his decision making, and his accuracy. The first half was really nice, and a little bit in the third quarter was nice. But I think as the game went along, the Jets started to bring more pressure. Darnold started to get reckless, maybe. I think the issue with him, like, when it came to some of his throws, there were plenty of throws that were high. He had a high throws to Ian Thomas up the seam in the first half. Same thing in that same half. He overthrew Terrace Marshall for a touchdown. He overthrew some balls, and what I did notice though was the pressure he had on most of those throws in which he missed his target. Those throws were either high, behind, or just slightly away, a little bit too far in front of the receiver. I was really impressed with Darnold. I think he did a good job with taking what was in front of him and going with the check down, not trying to make an explosive play. And having Christian McCaffrey as your check down isn't too bad of a check down option. And that's why McCaffrey was so productive, was because Darnold was taking his check downs and not making reckless decisions for the most part. I thought his decision making was consistent. There weren't really any bad decisions, except that he just needs – the trajectory on his throws needs work. And I thought his footwork was solid. I think he really set his feet well on plenty of throws. There were sometimes where his feet were out of whack. But again, it's week one. I think he's shown a promise against the Jets. But another concern I have, not with Darnold, but with the Panthers, is their offensive line. Cam Irving, Pat Elflein they're not going to cut it. It's just not, no way. Maybe Irving stays at left tackle. Like, Irving wasn't bad, but Elflein was horrible. Getting pushed back in the pocket, had a holding call on the screen, like an obvious holding call on the screen early in the game. He was missing mans. I mean, he was not good, and it wouldn't surprise me if Brady Christensen is starting at either left tackle or left guard at some point this season. I think it's inevitable. Matt Paradis was consistent. I thought Dennis Daly was okay. He did give up some pressures. He did all right. Taylor Moton was fine per usual. I mean, I didn't really have any issues with his tape from against the Jets. Moton, of course, got paid, and he got paid deservingly well. And he played well against the Jets, and I expected nothing less. He's the best offensive lineman by far on the team, arguably one of the best players on the team. So I was impressed with that. Um, the Panthers defense is great. They were pressuring the quarterback consistently. Zach Wilson did not have a great start. He did improve as the game went along. I thought he made some good throws, flashed a little bit in the first half, but then he really started flashing a good bit in the second half. And he made some good throws, on the move. And his touchdown pass at the end of the game to Corey Davis, tight coverage by J.C. Horn, fit in a tight window. It was a nice, good throw by Wilson. Horn came in at the right time, but it was just a perfect throw by Wilson Davis for the touchdown. Jack Thompson really impressed me. Changing numbers, I think, really did him well. I don't know. It could be something. Who knows? Maybe that's all he needed was to change numbers. And he's back to being the player we thought he was going to be coming out of Washington. I don't know. But I think he had one of his better games he's had in the last few years or so. So it was nice to see Jack Thompson ball out. Brian Burns was great. I mean, that whole front seven was just phenomenal. They were pressuring the quarterback consistently, like I said before, making great plays against the run. They were just really, really disappointed with their run fits. I was blown away, and I'm very, very encouraged moving forward with this defense. And I think Jameis is going to he may have some issues with this defense. I'm not trying to overreact or anything, but this Panther defense ain't bad. They're a good-looking unit. I think it's going to be a really nice matchup between the Saints offense and the Panthers defense this Sunday. So I'm excited for that, but I will be keeping a very close eye on it. I think the main thing I'll be looking forward to this upcoming weekend is how Sam Darnold does against the Saints defense and how he handles the pressure, the consistent pressure he'll end up getting, because that Panthers offensive line is just not great at all. They should be getting John Miller back from the COVID reserve list for this game, but it's still unclear at the moment. But yeah, I was impressed with the Panthers' performance. First time starting 1-0 on the season in 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 years. I can't really remember, but I was really impressed with the team overall and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I thought, especially in the first half, the Panthers looked like a really good football team. I was a little surprised that they didn't kind of keep the foot on the gas, so to speak, on the offensive side of the ball in the second half, and that obviously let the Jets come back a little bit at the end. So you definitely want to see them finish a little bit better, especially for a young team. Like, I think that's always the biggest thing with younger teams. They can't finish games, or they have trouble finishing games after they get out to a lead. So you saw a little bit of that with the Ravens. They're not necessarily a young team, but they weren't able to kind of put the Raiders away early when they had them kind of reeling a little bit. So I definitely want to see that kind of improve for Carolina going forward. Jets, got to give them credit for sticking around. It wasn't an easy game, especially offensively. Zach Wilson adjusting to the NFL speed. Because preseason is a lot different from the regular season. But like you said, he made some really nice plays outside of the pocket. Really, all the rookie quarterbacks that play significant snaps look good this weekend. But yeah, Zach Wilson looked pretty good in that second half and was able to find his favorite guy, Corey Davis. He hooked up with him a lot during camp and then in the preseason game. So it's no surprise that became his go-to guy. Denzel Mims made a nice catch down the stretch of the game as well.
Baby. Another brand guy.
So
let's go.
So want to see him get more snaps and play a little bit more. But yeah, the Saints-Panthers game should be interesting. I think the Saints are going to mix it up in terms of defensively, what they showed to Sam Darnold. Some play maybe on third downs. I kind of expect them on third downs to play straight up zone. and make him throw into windows, especially with a lot of injuries that they're having. I don't expect them to go man the entire game because that's a tall order. I know they did that a lot against Green Bay, but I just know that's not going to be a recipe for success going forward in the season. So I would expect them to play a little bit more zone, especially on third downs. Bring some different pressure packages, and it might be a long day for the tackles. Cam Jordan, he's a veteran, but he still can get after it a little bit. And then maybe we'll see some big Turner action. Carl Anderson as well is one of those quick twitch pass rushers. So it'll be an interesting matchup to see for sure on Sunday.
A couple things I want to mention. One, about Zach Wilson. He made one play. He did get sacked on the play by both Reddick and Davion Nixon, another brand guy for me. But I think he made like 5 defenders miss before he got sacked by Reddick and Nixon. Like he was just juking out pass rushers. He was just spinning out of sacks. I mean, the dude has incredible athleticism and maneuvering ability in the pocket, in and out of the pocket. I mean, if he can continue to progress moving forward, I think this is going to be I think Wilson could be a really good quarterback in this league and can really give hope for the Jets moving forward. But the Jets really need to start doing a better job, adding more talent moving forward. Joe Douglas, surround this man with some good talent, man. You got there's something with Wilson I really like. I think there's something special there as well. Another thing I want to mention before we go, I want to see improvement from Joe Brady, especially from Joe Brady's offense in general, from a play calling standpoint and from an execution standpoint. There were times when the play calling wasn't great in the red zone, but then it was good in the red zone, but the execution wasn't right. It's that type of stuff that really cost Carolina in games last year, and it almost cost Carolina again this year, or on Sunday against the Jets. They struggled in the red zone. They didn't really put their foot on the gas pedal in the second half. They struggled doing that in the third quarter in plenty of games last year. So that's something I really want to see improve and this team to get better at. Joe Brady isn't perfect, and I don't think he's ready to be a head coach yet. People need to relax on that. I get he's a good offensive coordinator. I'm not going to say he isn't, but he's not perfect. And the struggles he has in the red zone in terms of play calling and his decision making as a play caller in the red zone and also in the third quarter, second half, it has to be better. You really have to call more plays that really let this offense go crazy. They have the talent to really be a great offense, both on the ground and in the air. It's just Brady has to call those right plays and keep that tempo going throughout the game. So that's something I really want to see moving forward, and I really hope that improves against New Orleans. But New Orleans will be a tough game for Carolina. I'm skeptical they even win the game against New Orleans this weekend. I think Carolina it's still a young team with plenty of question marks. And I've already mentioned those question marks, but I think if the offense makes enough big plays and the defense makes enough plays against Jameis Winston, I think they have a really good shot at winning that game. But it'll be a very interesting game for sure for the both of us to watch. So I think that's something we'll definitely be talking about next week on the live stream or on a podcast recording for you guys. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week at some point with another live stream or with another recording. I am thinking about maybe doing a solo recording this week to give out my picks. I'll check with Devin, see if he's good with it. And maybe I can also send out some of his picks during a potential solo recording. But guys, again, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and also follow us on Twitter at JRod NFL Draft, myself, and Devin Jackson at keep forgetting the username. Yes.
At real_D_Jackson.
Yeah. Bro, I've known you for so long, and yet I still can't get your username down. That's a failure on my part. I'm disappointed. I'm shocked. Whatever. It's fine. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.